Hi everybody. Thank you for being here. Happy to share this activity with you. I'm Branka Gramic. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm also with LAC, colleague of Fernanda's, and I'm coordinating the platforms in Laos, Thailand, Maldives, and in Bangladesh. And I will start with the presentation. So the first part, the co-production. There are three components that we are including in co-production. So it's co-creation, co-design, and prototyping. So the first one, the co-creation, is the collaborative development of new values. So concepts, solutions, products, and services. Co-creation is a form of collaborative innovation, ideas that are shared and improved together rather than kept to oneself. So the idea is to collaboratively come to these ideas and develop of them. Co-design attempts to actively involve all the stakeholders in the design process, where all the participants have the same level of power, in the sense that the decision making is shared. It should involve people with the relevant skills and experience coming together to create a tangible product and services. And the last component is a more experimental process. It's prototyping, where the co-design teams implement the ideas into tangible products and services. So team builds prototypes of different degrees of fidelity to capture design concepts and test on users. With these prototypes, we can see what is working, what is not working, what we need to adapt, and in order to have our best initiative, product, or service. Co-production, all three of these components shouldn't be seen as linear. So they can be combined, and we can see co-creation as an opportunity to everybody to come up with new ideas, co-design collaboratively, also structure the teams and align the participants on specific goals. And prototyping is about more implementing experimentation. Fair, can you? Okay. So the next one. So here you can see how co-creation and indeed the co-production, how it's related to other parts of the SAP approach. So we have system mapping, listening, narrative analysis, collective sense making. So co-creation, it is linked to all of these processes, but particularly to listening or collective interpretation, because as the basis for the co-creation, we will be using the personas that were identified as a pattern of narratives, and that are contrasted in the collective sense making. So we already have some of the ideas from listening and the sense making that will be more defined in the co-creation process. So you can see here how all of these components are connected, and co-creation is the part of the process where we are starting also to bring together the stakeholders and evolve them more actively in the process. The next slide, please. Okay, so in this part, so co-creation, as I mentioned in the beginning, is a process by which new ideas and solutions are developed collaboratively with different members of community, relevant stakeholders, and the emphasis is building a joint response and the solution to the challenges that are perhaps they don't have an exact answer. So Generation of the new ideas is important because they are addressing the needs and opportunities from listening process, but the balanced portfolio should also include the already existing projects that are now interconnected. In this sense, we will have the people power portfolio. So why is this important? Because people power portfolio, if we only have the already existing initiatives, we will not have the capacity to have like the systemic impact. And this impact will be limited. Therefore, the co-creation allows us to adapt these existing initiatives and create the new prototypes, new ideas. On the other hand, if we have, for example, just the prototypes in our portfolio, we will have more risk to fail in this portfolio, because prototypes in this sense, we need to be able to accept that some of them will fail and some of them will be successful, because we are experimenting. So it's a safe space for experimentation. Also, in this sense, existing projects now it will be interconnecting. Inspiring project will be adapted to each thematic area, and prototypes should be selected on 5 different levels of action. So we have, thank you, Fernanda. We have community action. So these are grassroots initiatives, projects, pilots, or prototypes that are linked to improve community and social cohesion, and also they don't have a sustainable business model, not necessarily. And they are more essential to empower the community and surface the narrative of change. Then we have small or medium scale. These initiatives are more sort of a startup. They have a business model, and normally they generate employment. So this is one of the distinction from the community action, because they are generate employment in food production, commercialization, transportation, or market. Then we have a large scale initiatives. In this part, normally we include the the initiatives that are jointly with between public authorities and private sector. They come together to set up large scale programs, and the business model it's also involved, and normally it combines public investment and commercial activity. Then we have services. So the services here we involve, for example, redesigning of existing government-led services in health, in education, and citizen participation. So public services can be redesigned or improved. Then we have regulation, which is somehow as a glue to all these, because if we have a good business model or a good service that we want to open, for example, but the regulation it's not in line with our business model, it may fail. So that's why it's important to have regulation also as a prototype, in order to be able to do more, in order to have more opportunities for business models, or, for example, for social or technology changes. So in this sense here, we have good regulations in fishery and food system that could be a prototype. So this is also one of the examples of people power portfolio. So as you can see, here we have we included prototypes, we have included pilots, and also projects that are already existing and then now can be scaled up as already existing initiatives. This is people power portfolio from Pakistan. It's also food system. So you can see that we have some community initiatives, small and medium scale initiatives, large scale services and regulation. These are all interconnected, and it shouldn't be seen as siloed initiatives. In this sense, for example, one prototype can be seen in the first stage. For example, another prototype can be in code design stage, another can be in prototyping stage, but they are all interconnected. Sorry. And all of these initiatives are corresponding, as we mentioned before, to the personas. And these personas we have created these personas after the listening process, where we have interpreted all the information, identify patterns, the challenges, the common challenges and opportunities, and we have contrasted these personas or profile of people in the sense-making session. What we have done as well, it's a cross-analysis. Can we go to the next slide? So this cross-analysis is trying to identify the gaps that we can address in our intent to do the people power portfolio. So we will be crossing the personas. So you can see here the personas that we have, and the initiatives on community level, smaller, medium scale, large scale, public services, and regulation. So we have included here what is already mapped in the system. So this is something that is done on the beginning of the SAP approach. So it's system mapping. And now it is the time to cross cut this information and see what we are missing. So in this sense, for example, directly we can see how many initiatives Ahmed have addressing his needs or opportunities. So we can see that only 2 initiatives are on community level, that he have more initiatives on small, medium scale or large scale. So we can see where are the gaps, and we can see in the co-creation what idea or what prototype could be incorporated in our people portfolio, so we can ensure that his challenges and opportunities will be addressed as well. And this would be the, for example, Arif or Raham, they don't have no community actions in addressing their needs. So in co-creation session, we should also try to co-create the ideas that are addressing their needs and opportunities. In this sense, we will ensure that is the people power portfolio, and that corresponds to all challenges and opportunities that were identified during the deep listening and sense-making process.
It's important that when you are co-creating, to bring together people that we have interviewed, people from the community, or for instance, people that we couldn't reach during the listening process, but might be part of the co-creation session, bring stakeholders, government, private sector, international organizations. So that's the opportunity to bring different profiles, different people who normally don't gather together in the same room to discuss these findings that we already discussed before from the listening and from the mapping exercises. So the first thing that we think when we are doing or organizing a co-creation session is, how do we organize all these ideas that we gather, that we have from the previous process, right? You saw the matrix, you saw all the documentation, the systematization. You saw that we use the personas during the sense making as a tool for the sense making and for the contrast session. And here for the co-creation, there are many ways and many tools that you can use to facilitate the session. So the first thing that it's important is to organize the ideas, right? That you will going to co-create. So this idea could be considered for the co-creation process, considering the 5 levels of intervention and being classified by thematic areas. So this is just an example. This is just a tool that we have in the screen. This is a co-creation dashboard that the facilitators of the sessions can organize the ideas that came up from the listening process by thematic areas. So for instance, you can organize by agriculture for SMEs, fishery, and then you just write down the main ideas that came up during the listening. So this is easier to visualize what I'm talking about. So a co-creation session, if you divide by each session by thematic areas, you will have, for instance, food system, or you can have a group discussing energy or health, or a circular economy. It will depend on your findings from the listening, of course. Each initiative or each thematic area is related and responds to already the personas and assumptions that we have identified during this process. So for instance, here you can see in the food system, we have these personas, and for the health, we have these personas, and for instance, for regulation, you have these personas, and then this will be you will present the personas, but you can present just assumptions during the co-creation sessions very briefly to introduce what are you co-creating, right? So this is a very nice way to organize all the idea, all the data you have before dig deep into the co-creation sessions. So as I said again, when you arrive to the co-creation session, you have many tools that can help you systematize and organize everything that you want to discuss. So the first tool that we normally suggest and we normally use is this How Might How Might tool. With this tool, it's possible to generate questions and see what are the potential innovative ideas from different perspectives. So rather than answering the questions, you look for different ways of asking the questions about the same thematic area in a diverse way. So for instance, if we are talking about waste management, you can ask, how might waste management be improved? Or how could we improve waste management in rural areas? Or what new technologies could be incorporated into the waste management system to improve it? So we are just asking different questions to the same topic. So at first, the group can create many questions according to the thematic areas. And once no more has any more creative or any more questions, then you can step to the second part of the session, which I call brainstorming. I think that most of you are already familiar with the brainstorming, even the How Might or etc. tools, but I would just explain if in case it's new for somebody, right? So once you have this How Might, you have all these questions done in the previous session, in the previous discussion, then the purpose of the brainstorming is to generate specific ideas in a more structured way. So after having identified a specific challenge or need in form of question, now it's the time to discuss it. So the easiest way is just place the question in the middle of this table, but it can random use the wall, post-its, or whatever resources you have. but you just place the question that you want the team to discuss. So then you give time to the participant to reflect for 3-4 minutes on this idea, on this design question, and ask them to write about the idea in a post-it. So everybody can go there. And so if we are, for instance, asking how we can improve the waste management using technology, many people can write down a post-it like, okay, we can create intelligent bins. You can give, this is the time to give idea to give words to your ideas. So just let it out. So you will, at the end, you will have so many ideas, crazy ideas, realistic idea, unrealistic ideas. That's okay. This is the idea. So after that, the whole group should read all these ideas that have emerged and develop them to generate new ideas, right? So I just selected the main ones. In the end, a lot of the ideas will emerge by the end of the brainstorming session. And the best interesting part is that the whole ecosystem of relevant actors is involved. So at the end of the discussion, an illiterated person will be discussing with expert in waste management, the waste management problem. So as soon as we finished and reflect about these shared ideas, we jump to what we call concept poster. The concept poster is another tool that we use that when we work we use the concept poster from working with a large number of ideas to grouping them together to move to a more single direction. I would say the concept poster is the pre-tool that we normally use for the already known social or business model canvas that probably you are all familiar. So the concept poster helps us to previously dig deep into the business model canvas. So how do we use this tool, right? This is, you will select groups select which groups of ideas from the brainstorming could possibly be developed. So all generated ideas from the brainstorm will help here. You choose a name for the concept. So of course, as I said, in the brainstorming, we were trying to find out new ideas for improving the waste management, right? In a rural area. Then many people suggested ideas. So you discuss together and you choose, okay, let's develop these one and these ones and these ones, because the other ones will be complemented because those are the main ones. So you just choose a name that sums up the essence of this concept. So digitalization of the waste management. You just briefly describe the elements that should be part of this concept. What service does it include? What is innovative about it? What makes it original? So just a brief description of what do you mean by digitalization of the waste management. So you can say bring technology to the waste management to break down barriers, modernize the food systems and markets, bring young people, empower the community, and then you go to the 4 squares that you can see here. So the target groups, you just have to identify the target group for this concept. Describe how it relates to the profiles, the personas, and the needs and the needs and challenges specific to this group. To do so, it may be useful to identify 3 target groups and describe them. So for instance, for waste management, you can say farmers, waste management companies, young group, or head of villagers, and etc. So then you jump to the needs. So needs are for what do you need to take this idea to develop this idea. So you need regularization, you need a standardization, you need capacity building, you need digital skills, for example, for farmers, and digital skills for waste management workers. You can think about tools that are necessary. If you're talking about market, if you have to have market linkage to sell what you are prototyping, or what your internet connection, good training center. So everything that comes up in your mind that are needs for this idea to be developed. Describe what is new, what is innovative. So the value and the effects that this concept or idea may have for the group that is aimed. So when we bring technology to the rural areas to modernize the waste management system, you might attract young people that are normally not staying in the rural areas because they are mostly migrating to the big cities. So if you bring technology, it's also a way to keep the young people working in farmings or working in the rural areas. So just start giving these thoughts, and then who should join? So we are talking that now we start talking about stakeholder. As you know, before doing the listening process and during the whole sense making or co-creation, when we are talking about social innovation platform, we need to think that nothing is linear. So it's not that we are doing listening, sense make, co-creation. We are doing this simultaneously almost. So for instance, in the beginning, we have done the system mapping, where we mapped the main stakeholders that might be involved in our initiative, right? So you have to go back to your stakeholder map that you have done in the beginning, that you have been doing during the interviews, during the sense making, etc., and have a look at that and see, okay, for this prototype or for this idea that we are developing, what are the stakeholders that might be involved? So who should belong to this? Just think about the stakeholders that are crucial for this concept to materialize. People in the public or in private sectors, members of associations, organizations, NGOs, international development, keep them tracked, as they should be the ones invited for next co-design sessions. So that's important. We are start to building our team to develop these new ideas that we are creating, and having this community or having this small team being developed, being created, it's key for the successful of implementation of these new ideas. That's why I will talk about later about the how do we correlate these stakeholders to the prototypes and ideas. But here is just the first glimpse, I would say. So just few names, some thoughts, and etc. At the end of the session, or the first co-creation session, there must be a summary of the results in a synthesized way. So it's very important when we are talking about the participatory process, that we always, even when we are doing sense making, as we discussed before, etc., we need to have, for example, facilitators during all these sessions that are taking notes, observing, writing down, maybe recording all the sessions. Otherwise, we lose everything that we discuss, and this is important. It's not only think about how to do it, but how to systematize everything. And most important, take pictures of the post-it. So so brainstorming, picture and register everything. Take pictures of the how might questions, take pictures of the concept poster, because when you are analyzing everything and you will you will be able to, to see better connections, see what's missing, and etc. So this is just like 3 tools that we AOC use for a co-creation session, but of course there are many other exercises that can be conducted. You probably know the differences, and you probably know different tools that you want to share with us. The resource, I think it's the most common questions that come up normally when we are talking about co-creation, co-design, and prototyping, right? What about financing? Who's gonna pay for that? So that's why it's important to when we are doing the identification of the stakeholders, and when we are doing the system mapping, we keep track on the possible financiers, possible investors that could invest in your idea. So that's why it's important. And when we talk about the SIP process, we are not only disconnecting, it's not that we are doing in blocks. So the co-creation, it's coming from a long process. All right, so in the brainstorming sessions where you are developing many ideas, you already have the personas, you already have the challenges and the opportunities that you have identified, and they are covering that are representing by the personas. So once you have this brainstorming full of creative new ideas, when you are choosing all of them to the concept posters, that's why you bring together the stakeholders that have been mapped before. And you are already in a small group, right? So you are not doing the co-creation with all the people that you have listening. You're already doing the co-creation by the thematic area. So in this session that you are brainstorming, you have probably experts in waste management in this group, but you have the government here and you have the private sector. You must have an NGO and individuals, the community, the farmers, the young people being in this group, and with realistic resources. They're gonna discuss and debate together. Okay, so ideally we can start, and this is why we have our colleague from Pakistan here. We can start selecting more feasible ideas that can be already tested. So we normally start by level or small scale initiatives, right? So instead of talking about implementing changing the whole food system, we are gonna try, for instance, in Pakistan, what we have done it was to, okay, we are having a big problem that people are not, they don't have greener, they are not able to eat green and fresh vegetables during 7 or 8 months of the year. So when we do the brainstorming and we have created a mini idea, let's create a food processor unit where we can actually, this is a great idea, but you need a lot of resources for doing that. So for instance, why don't we start smaller and we start prototyping, for instance, tunnel farmings? So we are just gonna think about how we can provide the farmers enough tools for them to be able to produce during the winter. Then if it's successful, and then if we achieve our expectations, the goals of this prototyping, can okay, now what are the next steps? What are the scaling up action for these? Maybe community action become, for instance, a large action, or even, and then when it's where you present these to stakeholders, say, okay, we have prototyped that, and then you can do the, especially, and I know it's important that we are talking about policies here lately, and this actually we have the Thailand Policy Lab participating here. How do you contrast these ideas before selecting it, to see the gaps in the law that are maybe barriers, or there are maybe challenges for implementing that? So okay, you start smaller, but then now that you want to scale up this, you are facing and you are encounter many barriers, because the regulations at the moment are not making this possible to develop. So regulatory sandboxes are a very nice way to create and test, for 2 or 3 months, this gap in the system, in the policies. Mm-hmm. So coming back to brainstorming, I would normally select a feasible and with the resources we have first, and then also replying on our colleague question about what is the next step, what is the step forward. That's the co-design session. So okay, you have this group, you have decided, okay, the biggest idea for food production would do this food processing unit, because there you can englobe all the problems that we are facing in the food system. But we don't have money, we don't have private sector, we don't have anything, so we start small. And then that's what we do on co-design sessions. We have this small group that will be co-designing and will be discussing, bringing together private sector that are interested to that, and we keep listening the community. That's the most important thing. We have developed, like as I said, the Tamil farming, and we start. We bought all the materials necessary. We're implementing. We're already starting to prototype, but then we need to go back to the community and say, okay, now we are doing this. What do you think about that? What are you expecting about that? What are your main expectations? What we are missing? What do we need to focus on? Because it's the community that will give you the answer at the end of what we have to do. And also answering the colleagues, it talks a very important thing about ownership. Once you start talking to the community and bring them being part of the co-design and the co-creation process, you start to bring ownership to them. So they start to create ownership, and they will be part of that. Otherwise, it will be a silos project that we have, for instance, UNDP or NGO or any NGO or the government giving the money, and then people just prototyping, and then that's it. And it doesn't connect. And then the most, I think, challenge, and I will finish here, challenge the co-design and process is now, how do we connect that with existing initiatives? So instead of duplicating effort, we should bring what it's already been done in the territory, find the gaps, and see if what we are doing can complement that. So I will let, because we already entered the next, the discussion would be about co-design and prototyping, but I think we are already discussing everything. So I would just say that the main benefits of the co-design is to bring group and individuals who do not normally have voice. These individuals may be included, but also different stakeholders will acquire great possibility to work with these different people that normally are not included, and then they will be forming links and connections with people who never worked before. So this is a great benefit. Of course, there are some difficulties on co-designing or prototyping, even co-creation sessions or organizations that it's really difficult to work with large number of stakeholders and design actors. Sometimes communication is it's a challenge. Cultural and knowledge differences can come across, especially in an area with conflict or power relations. So we are implementing some prototypes in Indonesia, and we are facing a lot of challenges due to the power relation with the head of village and with the community and with the international agencies. And lastly, we are working with a different kind of experience. So we have a lot of experienced people working with people who never done this before. But that's the beautiful thing of co-creating, and that's the beautiful thing of co-designing. I think I will just close. This is just a tool that we normally use to when we are talking about stakeholder mapping. This is just a dimensional graphic that contain two axes that you can see here. One represents effective power of the stakeholder, and the other represent the interest, right? As you can see. So when you are, for example, you have like the concept poster, you already selected the idea where you're working, you will start to develop the business model canvas, but then you are going to focus on the team, on the stakeholders, on who should be involved. So you mapped, the first way to map all these stakeholders, it's classifying them according to their influence. So for instance, there are some stakeholders that have high power, but they have low interest in your prototype. So you need to keep them satisfied. So you write down the post-it, or again, you can use post-it or a Miro board, any tool that you have to. But also you have stakeholders that have low power, but are really high, but they are very interested in being part of it. So you keep this stakeholder close, but just monitoring it. And then you have the ones that have high power and high interest, and those are the ones that must be engaged closely and be actively participating on the co-designing sessions and be a part of the prototyping. And you have the ones that they have high interest, but that they have low power. So you will keep them informed, but they cannot do many things. So you just anything. So you may just keep them informed, and in a later stage they can, instead of they can have more power, and then you bring it to the discussion. So the last one is just how to synthesize all these graphics. So here it's a better visualization of what you have done previously with the stakeholder mapping. And here you have the fifth column, where you add the outliers, the ones that are probably blocking, and then where this is maybe like policies or other stakeholders or different agencies that are not willing to collaborate, and then you have to also to keep this on mind. So lastly, as you already know, when we are designing our prototypes that we are implementing, taking time to build a business model canvas. This is a tool that you can use to synthesize everything that you have collected, everything that you have gathered, all the data, everything in just a simple tool to pitch, for example, to investors or donors and etc. This is a very easy tool to do that. And here I have a colleague from, I don't know if, Pashara is a colleague from the platform, social innovation platform in Pakistan, where we have been prototyping three different, where we have been doing three different prototypes in Hushe Valley, in different scales, impact levels. So we have, for instance, a large scale initiative, we have a more community level initiative, and we have a small scale initiative. Bashara will just give his experience on how did the community did this prototyping, what was maybe the main challenges, what did they learn on doing that, dealing with different people from the community, but how to bring the stakeholders and mostly the financer, how to bring investors. For instance, he will say that we are now partnering with Ternua, big Spanish clothing company, that are willing to buy the hats from this women cooperative society that has been formed during the SIP, but they are facing failure because we don't have probably investors. So how are they dealing with that? It won't take time because we know we have to finish, Bashara. So maybe just 5 minutes to give your ideas, and then we can ask colleagues to make some questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fernanda, for this time. And yes, I'm Bashar Ali, and I'm leading this SIP approach in Hushai Valley. Hushai Valley is geographically exists in Baltistan, which is in the last corner. And we are living on about 3,100 meters above from sea level. So here, the most of the season, they are very harsh winter. It's only open for 5 or 6 months for green vegetables. So we did the listening process and all this through SIP approach. And we experimentally, we did 5 prototypings. And the first one was the tunnel farming, which was most relevant, which was coming from the listening process that most of the months of the year are closed because of raining and snow falling. So this is good for the local people, and our experiment was very successful. And the second was the apricot dry fruits and apricot oil. And the third one was the mountain herbals to make a tea bags. And we already sent for testing and biological testing. We already did. And this floriculture and seed production. And the fifth one is the e-commerce, how we can link all this. If we are producing something, how we can market this. This is one of the biggest challenge. And secondly, we established 8 farmer cooperative societies and 1 women cooperative society to involve the local community in different production level. And recently we have the partners for the farmer cooperative societies in from IFAT and from other organizations. But as the main challenge is for the investors, that how we can attract the investors to the valley, because this geographically is very far, and the caps demanded from turnover, but we are stuck in the how do we purchase the raw materials to produce these caps. So our main challenge is these investors, and we have the plan for the scaling up of all these 5 successful prototypes. Yes, our prototypes was very successful, were very relevant, and it is very linked from the voices of the community, but we are stuck in the middle, that how we can scale up this, because scaling up process, it needs finance and resources. And for future, we have 2 more prototypes that calls. One is the scaling up of the fifth 5 prototypes, and the local farmers produce the yak farming, which is diminishing because of the there are many reasons, and the local community want to intact this, and this is also coming from listening process. And the second is the trout fish farming, which is most relevant for high range lands fertility, that it can produce the trout fish also. And as the Fernanda explained, that we are facing these main challenges for the community, because the community has less power purchasing power because of the poverty and because of no incomes, and they have the income sources from tourism. Mostly the expeditions and the other trekkers come to the valley for trekking and these purposes, and they can make some money from these industries, but they cannot make enough money to invest. So the main challenge in the valley is the investment. So these are the summary that we are trying from last 2 to 3 years, and we are on a very good point. to scaling up all these strategies. But we are feeling that we are going to stuck in in this challenge. Yes.
Thank you,
Purnima.
Bashir. Thank you so much for sharing your experience on the prototyping. It was really interesting.